Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here again to pull apart some really dense ancient sources and see what they offer us today.
And today we are immersing ourselves in the Yoga Vasistha. It's known as one of the, well, most intellectually demanding texts in the whole yogic tradition.
Our mission for this deep dive is to get into the first few chapters. The text itself calls this section Awakening Dispassion, a journey to liberation.
Right, and what's fascinating is you might think a spiritual path starts with, peace or joy. This text says no. It argues the journey has to kick off with this profound, almost overwhelming sense of melancholy.
Yeah, it's really counterintuitive.
So we're going to explore that surprising idea and also look at the essential dual strategy the text lays out. You need both action and knowledge for true freedom.
Okay, so let's start where the text starts. Prince Rama. Here's a guy who, by any standard, has absolutely won the lottery of life.
Totally. He has every privilege imaginable. He's involved in governing. He does all the important rituals. He even enjoys things like hunting.
Status, power, a secure future, the works.
And yet, he just hits a wall. A huge existential wall.
It's like the ultimate success crisis, isn't it?
It really is. The sources describe him becoming physically affected by this sadness. He's pale, he stops talking, he's totally withdrawn.
They use these images like a withering lotus or a mute figure in a painting, just completely stuck.
Immobilized by this feeling of meaninglessness, even though he's literally the heir to a kingdom.
And like you said, this just flips the script on so much modern thinking. We're often told, get the job, the status, the security, then you'll be happy.
Right. Rama gets all that, achieves the prerequisites, and finds the exact opposite. Futility. Deep futility.
So that's the big paradox the Yoga Vasistha throws at us right at the beginning.
Exactly. And the question for you listening is, if getting everything can lead to this kind of paralysis, what does that actually say about the real value of all that worldly success?
The text seems to suggest this melancholy isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's not failure. It's maybe the first step towards spiritual success.
That's the radical idea. Let's unpack that. So Rama's father, King Dasharatha, he's understandably worried. He sees his son basically depressed.
Yeah, any parent would be.
But then sage Vasishtha, the wise guru figure, steps in with a completely different take. He says, hold on, this isn't just ordinary sadness.
What does he say it is?
He gives this powerful correction. Wise men grieve only for liberation, not frivolous things.
Wow. Okay, so Rama's despair is actually a sign of spiritual maturity.
Precisely. Not a lack of it. His soul, you could say, has woken up to how transient everything is.
Yeah.
And that realization sparks this deep spiritual longing called Vairagya.
Vairagya. We usually translate that as dispassion or detachment. But hearing about Rama's intense reaction, it sounds stronger than just mild indifference.
No, it's much stronger. It's radical dispassion. The text defines Vairagya as detachment from all worldly desires, okay? But also, and this is key, detachment from heavenly desires too.
Heavenly desires.
Yeah. It's triggered because Rama sees the fundamental futility in anything impermanent. Everything passes away: success, failure, pleasure, pain. So why pour your entire being into something that's guaranteed to vanish?
Intellectually, I get rejecting the rat race. But rejecting even the ultimate payoff, like heaven, that's a tough one to wrap your head around.
It is, and that's why the text gives us this story, this parable of King Aristanemi. It really drives home how radical Vairagya needs to be.
What happens with him?
So this king, Aristanemi, he's offered the absolute pinnacle of rewards. Indra, the king of the gods, offers him eternal pleasures in heaven.
Okay, that's the ultimate offer.
And he turns it down, flat out rejects it.
Rejects heaven. Why? Yeah. That seems counterproductive from almost any viewpoint.
But see, the Yoga Vasistha argues this rejection is the mark of true wisdom, because even heaven in the grand cosmic scheme is temporary. It's still within the cycle.
Ah, right. It's still part of the system you're trying to escape.
Exactly. So if your goal is lasting freedom, real liberation, then chasing any high status but ultimately fleeting pleasure, whether that's a corner office today or Indra's heaven, it's basically a trap.
Just a distraction. A fancier cage, maybe?
A very fancy cage, yeah. It just delays facing that core realization of futility.
Okay, so the pursuit itself, even of conventionally good things, keeps us bound. That makes a lot of sense. So Rama gets why he needs liberation, the world's transient nature, but he's still stuck, paralyzed. How does he move from knowing everything is meaningless to actually, getting up and ruling a kingdom?
That's the crucial next step. The text tackles this head-on, moving from the why of liberation to the how. And it introduces this through a dialogue between another sage, Agastya, and a seeker named Satikshna.
And they're asking, what gets you there? Is it action, karma, or is it knowledge?
Or both.
Right.
And Agastya's answer is the key. He gives this beautiful, very practical analogy.
The bird analogy.
Yeah. He says, just like a bird needs two wings to fly, liberation requires both of these aspects working together.
So you can't just act your way out. You can't just think your way out.
Nope. Neither detached action alone nor intellectual knowledge by itself is enough to break the cycle of suffering, of samsara. You need both, working in sync, integrated practice.
Okay, let's break down those two wings. Wing one, detached action, Karmayoga. This seems like the biggest immediate challenge for someone like Rama, right? He has to do his duties, rule, hunt, perform rituals, but without clinging to the results.
Right, without clinging to their outcomes.
Oh, wait. Doesn't that risk sounding like apathy? If I genuinely don't care about the outcome, why would I bother doing a good job?
That's the common misconception, and the text anticipates it. It's not about apathy. It's about acting without the kind of attachment that binds you personally. Rama becomes the living example.
How so?
He goes back to his royal duties, he performs them and performs them well, but his internal state is different. He does the action, but he isn't personally tied up in whether it leads to praise or blame, success or failure.
Okay, and this is where that specific metaphor comes in handy. The moonlight metaphor.
Yes, it's quite elegant. It shows how you can be active and beneficial without possessiveness. Rama's actions, it says, glad in others, like moonlight.
So moonlight illuminates, helps people see. It's useful.
Universally beneficial, yes. But the moon itself doesn't own the light, does it? It doesn't cling to the results of its shining.
Ah, I see. It acts without claiming ownership of the effect. Rama is active, he's beneficial, but he's operating from non-possession.
Exactly. He acts, but the action doesn't define his inner state. It's a powerful model for anyone in a position of responsibility, really. Be effective, but don't let your ego get tied to the results.
And the text also mentions his pilgrimages, right, to places like Kashi and Kedarnath. That's also part of this.
Yes, it's presented as another example of detached observance. He's engaging with the world physically, spiritually, but maintaining that inner freedom. He's using his body, his skills, but his mind isn't getting caught up. It's not creating those binding mental impressions, the vasanas, from what he's doing.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into wing two, knowledge, jnana. If detached action cleans up the outward behavior, jnana is about fixing the inner perception.
You got it. It's about seeing through the fundamental illusion, the deception, which the texts call Maya. Valmiki teaches that the world seems real, solid, permanent.
But it isn't inherently.
Right. He compares it to the blueness of the sky. The sky looks blue, maybe even feels like a solid dome above us, but that blue isn't in the sky itself. It's an effect, a perception based on light scattering.
So the world appearing solid and important is like the sky appearing blue, is how we perceive it, not its fundamental nature.
Correct. And what keeps us locked into that perception are those mental grooves, the vasanas we just mentioned. If Maya is the illusion of blueness, vasanas are the ingrained habits of thought, the memories, the ego filters that keep convincing us that the blue is absolutely real and vitally important.
That's a great way to put it. So liberation isn't just about stopping harmful actions. It's about using wisdom, jnana, to actively see through and even erase the mental patterns, the vasanas, that make the illusion seem real.
That is the mechanism of liberation, according to this text. Action alone, karma yoga, might make you function better in the world, maybe even improve the world, but it doesn't free your mind from believing the illusion is reality.
You need the knowledge wing.
You need knowledge, jnana, as the tool to dismantle that belief structure. The real battleground is the mind, and jnana is the weapon against Maya.
And the teachers who compiled this, they knew the teaching itself had to be more than just philosophy. It had to be a tool.
Absolutely. The Yoga Vasistha itself is presented that way. There's a point where Brahma tells Valmiki to complete the Ramayana specifically so that by this work, men will cross the ocean of worldly suffering.
So it's literature with a direct spiritual purpose.
A very direct purpose. The work is explicitly called a bridge across the sea of samsara, that whole cycle of suffering and illusion. And notice who it's for. Those who desire liberation, neither wholly ignorant nor fully wise.
So it's for people in that middle ground, people who've maybe felt Rama's Vairagya, that dissatisfaction, and know they need guidance but aren't fully enlightened yet.
Exactly. They see the ocean of suffering, and the text is the bridge to get across.
And thinking about bridges,
Mm.
the most famous bridge in the story, the one built to Lanka, that gets a symbolic meaning here too.
It does. The sources interpret that physical bridge to Lanka as a metaphor for wisdom overcoming illusion. It represents the structure of jnana that you need to build to cross the deceptive waters of worldly existence, of Maya, and reach freedom.
Without that bridge of wisdom, you're stuck on the shore.
You're stuck. The journey stalls.
Okay, before we wrap this up, there's one more tricky point we should probably clarify for people listening. Desire. If the goal is abandoning desire, does that mean all desire?
Good point. That needs nuance. The text distinguishes between two kinds. First, there are impure desires.
What makes them impure?
They're rooted in ego, in attachment, in selfish clinging. These are the desires that create karma, that cause rebirth, that bind the soul. These definitely need to be overcome.
Okay, and the other side?
Pure desires. These are desires that might sustain the body, like the basic need for food, or desires that support the enlightened state itself, like the desire for wisdom. Liberated beings might still have these, but they don't create bondage.
So they don't bind you to the cycle.
Right. But the core principle, the ultimate game, is still stated clearly. The complete abandonment of desires, meaning those impure binding desires, is the purest liberation.
Got it. And navigating all this, the melancholy, the two wings of action and knowledge, distinguishing pure from impure desires, and it sounds like guidance is pretty crucial.
Absolutely essential. That's why figures like Valmiki and Vāsiṣhṭha are so central. The guru is vital for helping the seeker actually apply these principles, use both wings without crashing, differentiate the traps from the path.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. The big takeaway for you listening seems to be the path to real lasting freedom, according to the Yoga Vasistha, doesn't start with forcing positive thinking or chasing worldly goals.
No, it starts with that honest, maybe even painful recognition of how fleeting everything is, that deep melancholy of Vairagya.
And from there, it's about integrating two practices. Acting skillfully in the world, but without attachment.
Like the moonlight.
Right. And developing the wisdom, the jnana, to see through the world's apparent reality, recognizing it as this grand, maybe beautiful, but ultimately binding illusion.
And that brings us right back to King Aristanemi turning down heaven. It forces us to constantly evaluate our own goals.
So the final challenge, the provocative thought this text leaves us with, is something like this.
I think so. Ask yourself, what high status, temporary heaven, what career peak, what perfect relationship ideal, what social standing are you maybe pursuing right now? And could that pursuit, however noble it seems, actually be a beautiful trap? Could it be the very thing preventing you from finding true, unattached, lasting freedom?
That relentless self-inquiry. That seems to be the ongoing work.
That's the continuing challenge and the wisdom from this ancient deep dive.